I'm very pleased, honored to be here. Thank you, Wines of Turkey, for inviting me and for giving me the opportunity to present you what I have done on this topic, together with my colleagues, Patrick McGovern, Gökhan Solemezolu, that I'm pleased to see again after 6 or 7 years. So I will present grape domestication, then we'll have Gökhan speech, and then the Anatolian varieties that we're going to taste together, and I'm going to comment some of the DNA research done on that topic. Okay, so you probably know that all wines that we drink come from one single botanical species, Vitis vinifera, subspecies sylvestris, meaning that it grows in the forest. And one or several domestication events led to the 8,000 to 10,000 grape varieties that are now growing on Earth. We don't have the exact number. Most of them are only kept in collections and are not used for wine. And this is responsible for 99.9% of the wines in the world, like Tavernello, table Italian wine, or this Aubryon example. I say 99.9 because in the US, some people are still making wine with other species, non-vinifera species, American species. I have never tasted any. Patrick said that it's not really exciting, but okay. They produce and they sell it on the market. And Patrick also mentioned you the main difference between wild grapes and cultivated grapes. Wild grapevine is dioecious, strange botanical term to mean that it has two houses. One house for the male, one house for the female. So you have plants with only male flowers, only stamen, and plants with only female functional pistil and dead stamens. So here you have pictures of what it represents when you look at it. And the cultivated grape has both inside. It's hermaphrodite. Hopefully, it can pollinate itself, and that is why we have harvest every year. If not, we would have to pollinate artificially. It would be impossible to have harvest grapes and wine. So it was really important to have this event of domestication, and the crucial point is the domestication from hermaphrodite, because if you look at wild populations of grapevine, you have 2 or 3% of the individuals that show what we call perfect flowers, flowers with male and female, and also about 2% of cultivated grapes that have separate sexes. And this is very important because if you want to domesticate a grapevine and you take a male, you will never have fruits. If you take a female and there is no male in the neighborhood, you will never have pollination and never have fruit. The only way to have fruit every year is to domesticate a wild grapevine with hermaphrodite flower, male and female inside. And that is what we found in Turkey and in natural population of wild grapevine. The wild grapevine grows from Portugal, it's the dashed areas here, from Portugal to Tajikistan, all around the Mediterranean. It is quite a consensus to say that the primary domestication event occurred in the Near East. It has been backed up very recently by a large DNA study published at the end of last year about the genetic structure and domestication history of the grape, and it confirms what we thought and what we had already done with Patrick. The domestication center is somewhere here. Secondary domestication centers have been proposed for Greece, Italy, France, Spain, and so on, but it's still controversial, and not everybody agrees on these secondary domestication centers. It's still an open question, I would say. If you open any book about grape and history, you will find that Transcaucasia is the cradle, the birthplace of wine and grape domestication. Transcaucasia is the modern Georgia, Armenia. But if you listen to what we are saying now, recent findings in genetics, in archaeology, in linguistics that I will present you today point to southeastern Turkey, southeastern Anatolia, between Tigris and Euphrates, as the birthplace or the place of domestication of the grapevine. This is just free advertisement for your book, Patrick. You can find everything in there. You give me the envelope after the talk, as we agreed. Okay. So everything archaeological is inside the book. The Noah hypothesis is well described. I will focus more on different topics. As you said, this is the area called the Fertile Crescent. And the Fertile Crescent is the domestication center of founder agricultural crops like einkorn, pea, chickpea, and so on. And there are archaeological remains of 7 founder crops in this area. It has been studied by genetics. Here, a very good review on this topic, and all point to this area, mainly a region called Karachada mountain. We've been there, and it's full of grasses. So there are plenty of different species of grasses, but there is no tree, so no possibility for wild grapevine to be there, because wild grapevines are growing plants, and they have to grow above a tree. So it might not be the same area, but in this region, we knew how to domesticate plant for food. And, well, I'm sorry for the color. It's better on my laptop. This is a really interesting expansion of agriculture based on what they have been able to date with C14 using plant remains in archaeological sites. When they analyzed these archaeological sites here, they more or less always found 8,000 BC as the date with C14. Going further, 7,000, 6, 5, and so on. So it's like, how to say, poupée russe, Russian doll, okay? It's like Russian doll, you can do it the other way. And you point here as the most ancient plant remains in archaeological sites. So it corresponds more or less to the Fertile Crescent. And this is very interesting. I'm sorry it's very small, but the tree is so huge I couldn't do better. It's 2 slides. It's a work done in 2003 by 2 linguistic people from Australia. And they made the genealogical tree of the European languages. It's fascinating. They used what we do in biology for languages. They compared more than 100 of common terms among all these languages, and they calculated the number of differences between the terms and the writings. And every difference was considered like a genetic difference, like we do in human trees. So here you have Celtic languages, and they were able to date as well the period when the languages separated. So this branch separated 2,900 years ago. No, not ago, before Christ, sorry. This is Latin with French, with Sardinian. This is German, English, Swedish. So you can go back every time, and it goes back in time, 6,000 years, and so on. And if you go at the bottom of this tree, you can find many other languages, like Indo-Iranian, like Greek. Albanian is here, quite different from anything else in the area of Albania. Greek, Armenian, Tocharian, and here you find Hittite. And Hittite is the extinct language of ancient Anatolia. And you might remember that Patrick said how wine was important in Hittite civilization. And Hittite is also responsible, or the most ancient language of all Indo-European languages. So it also points to the same region for the origin of agriculture, languages, and probably wine as well. So that's why I have started a project together with Patrick McGovern and our colleagues, Kirkan, and other people from Georgia, Armenia, to compare archaeology with genetics, and to compare wild grapevines with cultivated grapevines from all these countries, including some from Western Europe. And basically what we had as a result, this place looks like being the cradle of wine. This is a picture. It's the same river in which Patrick almost fell in. I could not rescue you because I was busy taking a picture. So he was rescued by Ali Ergül, our colleague. And this is the same river at the headwaters of the Tigris. A huge vine, a huge wild grape vine here. And if you look at this scenery and you compare it with Satan at the gates of the Garden of Eden, it's the same. And it's the same rock here. You see? It's the same. We were very close. So we went over there to see. Well, there was a lake with nice houses, and, well, maybe it's the Garden of Eden, I don't know. But nothing special happened. Okay. So, more seriously, what we had as results is each of these dots is one individual, one grapevine, either wild or cultivated. And I have compared the DNA with 20 DNA pieces, 20 DNA markers for all these samples, 136 cultivated, 137 wild grapes. And what we got is that wild grapes from Europe are completely distinct from the rest. So this does not speak in favor of secondary domestication centers. But the sampling should be much larger to have a better picture. What we see is wild grapes from Georgia and Armenia are also separated from this large group. And this large group is made by wild grapes from Turkey together with cultivated grape cultivars from Turkey, Georgia, Armenia. And it also encompasses some of the cultivated varieties from Europe. So from this, we can say that the wild grapes from Turkey are the closest, genetically the closest to the modern cultivars. And it's not the case in Georgia and Armenia, so this points genetically to this area as the most likely place of domestication, from which some cultivars from Western Europe derive. So, to summarize, from grape genetics, biomolecular archaeology, I mentioned the Chayanu archaeological site that you were analyzing, Patrick, linguistics with the Hittite ancient language. All these three approaches point to this area as the most likely primary domestication center of the grapevine. So thank you for your attention.